Hello and welcome to all of our Gold viewers who are here with us today. I'm Kristen Schwarz, a licensed midwife and one of the MCs here at Gold. And with me today is Mercedes Thomas. Mercedes, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
It's wonderful to have you here. You are one of the presenters, of course, at the Gold Lactation Conference 2024, which is just around the corner here. We get started April 2nd. So this year is already flying by, it feels like. Right?
Yeah,
And
it's flying.
It's flying for sure.
Yeah.
And your topic it's a very important topic, unlocking the power and dismantling the bias, lactation education in a digital world. I can't wait to talk to you about this topic. But first, before we jump into that, I want to know a little bit about you. You are, of course, a lactation consultant. You're also an advanced practical nurse from what I know. So tell me a little bit about your background. And first of all, where are you in the world?
So I'm actually in South Africa. My husband, his work has brought us here. So we'll be here for a total of 2 years. We're about 7 months into that time frame right now.
Beautiful, wonderful. So quite and where are you from originally then?
I'm originally from New York, half of my life, and then the other half spent in Atlanta. So
Okay.
Atlanta is home now.
Atlanta is home. So this is quite the adventure that you're having right there in South Africa.
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay. So tell me about your background as well, in lactation. So give us a little bit of an overview.
Sure. So I started out many years ago, almost 16 years now, back in the NICU. And that was the beginning of my lactation. My hospital, unlike many, they actually did training for us in lactation before we went into the NICU. I used to work at one of the largest delivery hospitals in the Southeast. And so it was very important I think we had about 125 beds when we were full in that NICU.
Wow.
And so it was very important for us to have lactation education to be able to work with the families. And then we also had a lactation center in the hospital where they prepped the family's milk, if it needed fortification, any human milk donors, milk, that all would come through this centralized, I guess kind of like a lab almost like, and they would deliver the milk each day. And that would be just, go into our refrigerators, and we would distribute that out to the families for those that could not be able to latch their babies at the breast or chest.
So you almost had your own milk bank there, it sounds like.
Yeah,
right?
it really was. Of course, there were, stipulations on which babies could get the donor milk. But any baby that had their parent had milk that they dropped off, that would then go downstairs. It would be labeled. We had a scanning system. And so, I mean, that was 16 years ago. I don't know what it looks like there now, but I thought back then it was a pretty good system. And so that started my lactation experience with lots of multiples, again, because of the hospital, the nature of the hospital in Atlanta, we had lots of multiples. So it was not uncommon to have families that were involved in IVF and had 4 or 5 babies sometimes. And we're working with lactation. We also did have lactation consultants on staff as well. But of course, we needed to be versed and understand what needed to happen, how to help our families when lactation was not able to be present, because there's one of them for 125 beds. So we were kind of like extensions of them.
Wow.
I worked in the NICU for several years, went back to school, and then I worked in private practice, primary care as a pediatric nurse practitioner. So working there, I have always loved babies, hence the NICU, hence pediatrics my whole career. And so I became like, when we had the newborns come in, everyone know, like, just send the newborns to me. And so that's kind of what we did. And naturally with newborns, you're going to have a lot of families, again, breastfeeding and lactating and needing that education. And so I've always gravitated to the health education part of nursing. And so that stayed with me. I'm pretty far removed from like the bedside portion of nursing, but I ran a private practice for a couple of years up in Maryland before we moved to, actually, this is our second post. So we were in Bogota, Colombia, now in South Africa. But before we moved abroad, I ran a private practice up in the DC area for a couple of years. So I was able to keep that extension of my love for lactation. And because of where we live now, it's a little hard to keep the private practice up, but I maintain that love for health education.
Right.
And for me, the health education, you know, when you're a nurse, you're in the hospital, when you're in private practice, you're able to do one patient usually at a time, unless you're running some type of class or course. For me, digital health, it has kind of exploded that option of being able to educate, what I like to say, on steroids. So now instead of 1 or 2 people, maybe 10 people in the room, your information can reach, I mean, thousands of people now. And so that's why this presentation is really important.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I love the title there, you know, the education in a digital world. And for some, you know, the young ones, I call them, they are so familiar with all the different platforms, right? Now, for some, it can be really challenging, or they feel overwhelmed, right? I know a lot of people who are really great lactation consultants, and they're fantastic with the families one-on-one, but when it comes to electronics or you know, some video or whatever, they feel like, oh, I can't do this is too much, I'm not sure I can do this, or I look silly, I don't know what to do. Talk to me a bit about that.
So I think after the pandemic, we've all had to realize, no matter if we're young, old, experienced in electronics or not, we've just got to jump on board and get to it. So I think that's kind of my thought process. I actually do address, though, the elephant in the room, which is, what do you do around the world? Because we're talking to a global audience.
Yes.
Or even if you're in a rural area, or even if you don't have the money to afford internet access. How do you reach your patients, your clients that have that difficult access? And so I do address that. There's several examples all throughout the world on what they've done, even something as basic as a text message, which you can pretty much get that done anywhere. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be Zoom. It doesn't have to be high cost. So I think you just have to figure out what is going to work for you, what's going to work for your population, what's within your budget range, and utilize that so that you can be able to kind of loop in your families. Because I think the digital is the way of the world right now. And I don't think that's going to change at all. And then we also have to think about, what are the ages of lactating people right now, right? So although I may be older, I'm an older millennial myself, but although, you know, I may not be into TikTok and all of those things, where are the families and the parents, and where are my clients at, right? How do I reach them and get a valid information to that clientele?
Right. Absolutely. And another thing I wanted to ask you about is how do you reach your clients, or find your clients? Because one thing that I hear over and over again is it's harder to get people into classes online or in person, no matter what, right? And my question is this because the way the classes were traditionally do not really speak to the younger audience, who are more the age of TikTok, you know, shorter videos, faster moving? What is your experience with that?
So my preferred mode of education is not always classes. I do that a lot. But my best mode is through health content and digital content. So I usually do that by writing for, it's basically, the secret to that is partnership, right? So what other companies have a larger reach than you have? So if I write content for a large health organization, a digital content organization that is putting out content out there, that's the way that I'm able to get my information across to more people. And people can organically find out about you too. Just by doing a Google search on some things, you may pop up on the first page of Google by those partnerships too. So that's my preferred mode, content writing, which is basically writing health articles, and I stick within my niche, which is maternal and child health. So writing about lactation, writing about how to speak with your pediatrician when you're in the office to get the information that you need. just a multitude of things in that area.
That's an excellent suggestion. What a wonderful way to communicate and reach the audience, a broader audience than just like one or two people at a time. That's absolutely fantastic. I wish we could talk a lot more, but before I let you go, Mercedes, any last words you would like to our viewers to know about your presentation here that you would like to share?
Yeah, sure. So with the presentation, the biggest thing is dismantling the bias. So although we're talking about digital health, it doesn't just end there. The biggest thing is to be able to help marginalized audiences and those audiences that are not able to find information, those audiences that may not have information available to them due to bias, those people that are not listened to appropriately by their healthcare providers. I think that we're kind of the channel to be able to help people through that. In breastfeeding, it definitely supports evidence that being able to breastfeed, chest feed your infant is able to just avoid a multitude of issues. And one of the largest issues being infant mortality. So that's a major focus of the presentation, how breastfeeding could potentially be the way to solve and decrease infant mortality on a global spectrum.
There is so much power in breastfeeding, right?
Yes, it really is.
Absolutely.
And the data shows it, and the data shows it. So yeah.
Wonderful. So Mercedes, thank you so much for talking to me here. Oh, quickly before I let you go, you have a book, right? What is it called briefly here for our audience who want to find out more?
So this is the book right here. No, here. But it's called What in the Baby? The Modern Mama's Guide to Confidently Caring for Your Baby and Surviving the Postpartum Period. I created this book actually during the pandemic, which was crazy because I had a toddler home and I was home and private practice and all of these things happening. But it was created to be a short guide, easy to refer to help parents prepare for a new baby. So it starts them all the way from what they should do a little bit before conception, which is finding, of course, lactation classes, childbirth classes, and walks them all the way up to about the first 6 to 12 months on growth and development, emergency situations, step-by-step, how to give your baby a bath, how to nurse your baby, how to mix formula correctly if you need to supplement. Because there's a lot of misconception, as we know, with some of the events that happened maybe months back with that, but just basically a quick, easy to read guide to get some evidence-based information. And then at the end of the book, it has pages and pages of resources for families to be able to look at.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Mercedes, for sharing that here today.
Great. Thank you.
Well, it was so nice hosting you here today, and we can't wait for your presentation here at Gold. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Kristen. Thanks a lot. Bye.
And for our audience now, if you would like to find out more about this presentation and all the other presentations in the conference, we invite you to go to goldlactation.com. We get started here on April 2nd with our open access, free of charge keynote presentation. So make sure you sign up for that and share it with your friends and colleagues in the field. And I hope I see everyone at the conference. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.